So, in many urban places, we have malls or supercenters or whatever you want to call them with much unused space in the form of parking lots. This is not the best in many, many ways because this unused space actually means that A, it takes away from space from wildlife and stuff. It makes the city less transportable or navigable or whatever you want to call it because you have stuff less close together. And then you also have cars going in and out. And so on, and we just take more land away from the environment. So here's some ideas to maybe mitigate these problems to different extents and different levels. One of them is that we can put solar panels on in these places. And these solar panels means that we can just generate electricity instead of just wasting the area. Now there's a couple different ways, and then there's a couple also advances because if you use electricity nearby, it actually saves energy than transporting it far away where some electricity is actually lost. So how can we transport do this? Well, one is we have solar roofs. This will be above the different cars and stuff. These solar panels will not have to be as durable because they're above everything. They could also give you more shade because and the shade could be useful because the shade could help cool down people in hot places. It could protect people from rain and bad weather more. And and you also can just clean them off by tilting them and maybe dumping off some stuff. Disadvantages is it might block out too much of the light in certain cases. And also that you might get downpours of rain more strongly in some areas as the rain accumulates and hits it. Another way is you can put it, and this has its disadvantages on in the actual ground of the cement or concrete in roadways, and that way there's no height limit for like trucks or something to maybe hit it. It doesn't provide too much shade, so you can still see everything, but it has its disadvantages directly too. Now, the other idea is to make these concrete porous so water more easily could do it, and having large porous areas of concrete also has a bunch of other advantages in that it helps naturally filter water and might prevent flooding in areas. You can combine this with other ideas if you have solar panels with little gaps every now and then just to let the water in. Or you could have a solar panel roof above and have it tilted and let the water down at certain times. I talked about porous concrete and other ideas in previous ones. The disadvantage of porous concrete, though, is that you'll have to reinstall whole concrete beds, or you'd have to make it a thick layer, like a few inches to a couple feet deep of this concrete, then have an exit with like gardens or something on the side somewhere. So that is not perfect, and I'll link to my previous video on this. Another idea simply is to make this whole thing on the roof, that your garage and parkway is on a roof of some building stuff, so this takes up less space. Not the most innovative. An inverse one of this idea is to make this underground or semi-underground. Now, one way is we could install large columns to lift up buildings and make new buildings and then have the parking lot underneath it, which would also give some more shelter. Both these ideas would give some more shelter to the cars from the elements. One thing we could also do to promote everything, make cost saving, is to make these emergency shelters all this during bad times or earthquakes or something like that. And the reason why having more emergency shelters is always better, besides just housing more people, is in an emergency, people are evacuating all over the place. And the more you can, in some ways, you want people to be concentrated so you can get to all of them at once. But a person might not have the resources to go 50 different feet, or, I mean, not 50 different feet, like 10 miles to emergency shelter. Maybe they have to quickly access emergency shelter nearby during an emergency. So the more close by they are, the better. Maybe there's also, if they're less compact, diseases and stuff, less easy travel. There's also less of a, it's also better for people's mental state, and you can also stockpile more stuff. And if the emergency shelter right next to a store, well, maybe worst case scenario comes, or bad case scenario, you steal food and stuff from the store nearby and break into it with all the people that house there during the emergency. So that is a very, very practical use, the break-in use. And if we make this emergency shelter, you also have more motivate to install all these electrical charging stations, um, solar cells and panels and stuff like that. Another one is now then to set up the area every now and then and use it for other things besides cars, and have it for like stands for like farming and other markets and stuff, which is done in many, many places. I'm saying doing it more actively, places that don't do it, that have days where people do not really use up the parking lot. So it's like have a weekend market, everything on a regular schedule, and promote those things. Another idea is simply just to have these as charging stations so people park their cars. And this actually might mean that people spend more time at these places, because if they are already charging the car there and the car takes a while to charge, maybe if it takes a couple hours to get fully charged, maybe they want to also get a bite to eat out there and do a bunch of other activities. It's not a waste of time just to wait a half more hour. And that might make the whole area used more, but in a more economical way. And slow charging does have its advantages compared to fast charging. It is, for a variety of reasons, always going to probably be more efficient. One reason is that wires heat up the more energy you put through them, and that heat up causes more resistance, which causes more energy to be lost. A similar thing happens in batteries. The faster you charge them, the more resistance there is in the battery system, and the more you have to manage the heat in both of the systems, because it can cause damage, and actually doing the heat can cause damage to the batteries. So there's good ways of enhancing that, but still you use energy in those processes. So it would be better if we design a system that it isn't there in the first place. Another potentially good idea about this is it could be better for pickup spots. And by pickup spots, I mean spots that we make use this to pick up goods and items. Like you buy a bunch of things online and you pick it up from the spot, or stores and stuff like that. Could use them as more of a way of picking up stuff from between stores. And that could just make it more widely used in general. Yet another idea is to have this place as a place where people can bike or walk more towards, so people just use the area more, would have to use less cars, and figure out how to do that. Maybe maybe that means that making the place more pretty. Maybe that means making it cooler. Maybe that means installing more benches. Um, maybe it means looking at access all around the place. In one way, you could also make people use the places more for biking and walking. Is have it have services like a library that helps you fill out forms and taxes, a government bank or something like that that you do banking and stuff at, a mail station, like services that people that are less well off will go to, and maybe also having more bus stops there, or public transportation. thank you very much for listening. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard. With your help, I think can do it. Also, if you have any ideas for future videos, comments, or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. That includes questions. Again, thank you very much. Goodbye.